Just a reminder that any thoughts, opinions, and points of views expressed during this podcast are those of the individual and not of the Grand Lodge, appendant body, or concordant body that individual may belong.
Welcome to this episode of Pen and Compass podcast. We've got a very special guest tonight. I know I say that every time, but every one of these guests that we have on, very close personal friends of mine. I get to do so much Freemasonry in life with them. I get excited every time we have an episode. Tonight is my companion for the last 7 years in my Royal Arch chapter, Royal and Select Masters Council, which is a part of the York Rite. We do a lot of degree work together. We have collaborated on so many educational projects and presentations. I'm probably a little bit more nervous than he is, I think, to make sure we're asking the right questions. So, kind of goes along with my background. I think there was a time and place, and I really think that we were meeting up at a Starbucks here in Arlington, Texas, where I live, and we met up one afternoon. I think it was on a Sunday afternoon, just to do some planning and talking about things. And this was before COVID, so about 2017. And he and I started talking about things and comparing notes and what we loved about Freemasonry and what we'd love to study and some of our religious views and things like that. And literally the heavens opened up. The Holy Spirit came down and angels started literally singing in amongst around us in the Starbucks. Anyway, so tonight, some people call him Brother Soap. I call him Companion Soap. Everybody calls him Stanley Omar Amos Payne. So we're great to have you on here, Stan. And I'll probably go between Stan and Soap and Companion Soap and all these type of things. So usually we just kind of on the first parts of this episode we'll just say, tell us your background. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but just kind of fill everybody else in. Talk about kind of how you grew up and where you grew up, and then I know you have fraternal experiences starting in college, and just kind of flow into Freemasonry and just kind of give us your background of all those type of things.
All right. I'm from Grand Prairie originally, and when I was born, obviously, and lived here, in my younger days, we went to St. Michael's the Archangel Catholic Church in Grand Prairie. And while there, my mother got involved with what she terms a charismatic movement within the Catholic Church, and that was interesting. Obviously, that's not something you see necessarily in the Catholic Church, but it was at the time that charismatic stuff was going on. And then my father got moved by the railroad. He worked for the Union Pacific, and we moved to Palestine, Texas, in East Texas. And while we were going there, my mom decided to join a Assemblies of God church. And to say that threw me for a loop. That doesn't even come close. But we got through it, and I got into that tradition, steeped in what I'll call fundamentalism, and all of my family on my mom's side is still in Catholicism. So I was, still walking that, trying to figure out that whole thing. Anyways, when I graduated from high school, I went to college, and I went to University of Texas in Austin for one semester, chased a girl there, and while I was there, my grandmother, passed away, and my grandfather was living by himself in Grand Prairie, so I decided to transfer to University of Texas at Arlington. And while I was helping with him and my father was helping with him as well, I joined Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. And growing up, my mother was very anti-Mason, and she talked about, they were devil worshippers, and whatever the crazy nonsense that she heard. They had secret meetings, they had this craziness going on. And when I joined SIGEP, I realized, hey, we have closed door meetings, hey, we have a ritual, but that doesn't mean anything nefarious was going on. And I enjoyed our brotherhood. I enjoyed the ritual per se. I mentioned this a little last week to you, that our lexicon has stuff that's more esoteric, if you will, than what we have in just our ritual for becoming a brother. And so after graduating college rather, I decided, well, I want to be a part of something else that's similar, but I didn't care about the parties. Don't get me wrong, we're, young men, we like parties, but nonetheless, I was looking for more. And I was looking for an opportunity to hang out with men who could be mentors. And so thinking about my situation with SIGEP, I said, you know what, I'm going to go check out a Masonic Lodge in Grand Prairie, since I was still dealing with my grandfather, taking care of my grandfather. And I went to Samuel Hamilton Lodge in Grand Prairie, and met these three very nice men, Lou Lineberry, Gene Crisp, and um, Charlie, I can't remember his last name, but anyways, these three guys were talking to me, and they handed me a pamphlet that was for Master Masons to further their education after becoming a Master Mason. And I hadn't even joined, and I was like, what in the world is this?
Right.
There was stuff in there about cryptic masonry, and I was like, okay. So I started reading, and I thought, well, that's interesting stuff, talking about the building of King Solomon's temple, and stuff that was involved with that. And I thought, well, maybe this is just the ritual that they use. And so I went to Thomas B. Hunter, which is the other lodge that meets in the evenings in Grand Prairie, and noticed that the body there was a younger generation than Samuel Hamilton was. And so I just decided I'm going to go ahead and join. And so that's where I joined in 2003. In fact, it was May 2003 when I got elected. Did my EA degree, and I turned in my proficiency after a month and a half. Then I did my fellow craft in a month, and did my Master Masons in a month, and I was a Master Mason by June 29th, if I remember correctly, of 2003. And while I went through that, some of the things that stood out to me were the 5 orders of architecture, which we talked about in Sigma Phi Epsilon. There were other things, and then there was these emblems, these symbols that were used that were similar to a mural I had in my fraternity house. And I thought, well, look at that, that's interesting. And I did a little research and found out that 4 of the founding fathers of Sigma Phi Epsilon were Freemasons. Interestingly, 8 of them were Baptist ministers. And I had, while in college, I joined First Baptist Church in Arlington. And while I was going through everything, I would ask questions, sometimes questions that I knew the answer to. And the response I got was, nobody cares about that. Why are you asking these questions? And that's just weird. What are you talking about? And so I ended up having to research things on my own, and thought, Well, I hear people talking about if you're a Christian, you should join the York Rite. And I had the little pamphlet to Master Masons that was extra education. I thought, okay, let me go ahead and join the York Rite. So I did in Arlington. Bob Collier was the secretary, recorder,
Yeah,
and
that's my Masonic mentor who sometimes he's been so pivotal in my life and your life too. I mean, everyone that Bob he's still with us at the time of this recording. As far as I know, he's kind of moved out of the area, but he totally shaped a quarter century at least or more,
absolutely.
maybe 30 something years of being a part of something that meets in that building in Arlington, Texas, and
Absolutely.
Masonic father to me for sure, very like a member of my family. So sorry to interrupt there. I
Oh,
couldn't
that's okay. That's
let the
okay.
Robert D Collier, Bob Collier
There you go.
reference passed me by there. So
And
well,
then while I was going through my degrees, I have to say the mighty Joe Arona, he impressed me during those degrees. He did great ritual work, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. But I was still struggling with, if you will, fundamentalism or strict interpretation of my religion. And I thought, well, I've gone through all this. People say this is where Christian Masons should be, but uh, you know, I guess having my mother in my ear, if you will, on my shoulder, uh, church was church, masonry should be masonry, and there shouldn't be a mixing. I kind of felt, and so I had to struggle with that for a little while. And anyways, as I was going through my time, I was studying this and that and what have you. Bridge of Light. There were other things that I looked into. Um, and then I became worship master or master, excuse me, of my lodge in Grand Prairie, Thomas B. Hunter. And I decided to join the Scottish Rite. And when I did, um, the fall of 2017, that's when I signed up. I thought, well, let's see what this is all about. My mother, always said that uh, the devil worshiping stuff, and I always thought, well, let me stay away from the Scottish Rite because that's got to be where the devil stuff is, and what have you. And when I went through my degrees and my reunion, I was blown away. My mind opened, and I realized that just because there are things talked about um, that have deeper meanings does not mean in any way that they are of the devil. And the Scottish Rite system just blew me away as far as the degrees. I wish in some ways that the Scottish Rite would have education on each degree individually over time so a brother could really soak that in. But in any event, getting away from myself, the 18th degree I went through, and I sat there and saw a picture of Christ on the cross, and was told that that was an emblem of love. And the very next weekend, my cousin got married in Austin, and I went to his wedding, and the priest said, right here, which there was a crucifix with Christ on the cross above him, that it was an emblem of love. And I said, I just saw this last week. What's going on here? I was blown away. And I guess just before that, I had told James Kirkpatrick, hey, I need you to help me do a 40-year service presentation to Bruce Dalton, if you would help me out. And he did. And after he helped me, I said, you know what? I've been gone from the New York Rite for too long. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back for you. I'm going to come back for my companions, and we'll make this work. Well, I can tell you my experience with the Scottish Rite helped me to enliven my passion for the York Rite. And I don't know any other way to say that, but it was from going through the Scottish Rite degrees that I was able to glean the light, if you will, from the York Rite and understand the deeper meaning of it all. And
Yeah.
I've gone through being high priest, thrice luscious master, and now commander of my chapter council in commandery, and it's been an amazing journey, and I really appreciate it. Now,
Well, the fun thing
on
for me is I've been right there with you the whole way, and just I go back to 2004, 2005, and 2000. Well, 2004, and 2005 for those same three leadership positions in the same room for the same three groups. And when you came along, that was the beginning of what I think I really would see as 10 years into that for me was why I kind of have this picture behind me and this background behind me is you and I were able to experience the amazing ritual that and just the high standard of the performance of the ritual. But now you and I could elevate the conversation to a level that really no one at that time, they were doing great degree work. They understood how to present it in a very meaningful way, but digging deeper below the surface, getting out those three tools that we have as Royal Arch companions and going down deeper was just not something they were interested in.
absolutely.
And so I think over time, you know, I was very purposeful with you about, hey, I know you're going to do a great job when you become a leader, and you should look at me like, are you sure that's going to happen? I don't know, you know. And I'm like, no, you're going to do a great, and you've done a wonderful job. And the thing about that is we started having these deeper conversations. You taught me so much. I would, you know, and hopefully I showed you some things here or there too. But
Absolutely.
definitely partner in crime, co-collaborator, and all those were some of the things I meant to say at the first when I introduced you. But definitely that.
You obviously, when we had that conversation at Starbucks, I knew that I had a kindred spirit in you, and that you would be there as someone that I could talk to about all this. And I greatly appreciate how much you've been there to encourage me and help me along the way. If it wasn't for you and other brothers giving me encouragement, I don't know that I would have been able to do half the things I've done. And so I have to say thank you, not only to you, but to other past presiding officers who have been there for me. I can't say that enough.
Well, I'm just glad that you are still an undiscovered treasure, and I got to help you kind of bring that out to the rest of the world. And that's really it's cool that I really get to say this because this is why I'm doing Pen and Compass. This is why I started it to talk to not only people that are kind of writing books and authors and being published in different things, not only kind of the nationally, internationally known podcasters, but guys like you that at their local level, they are the pillars. They're the foundation, and that are really pushing this new. Let's study the symbolism. Let's interpret it. Let's go study alternative sources. But also at the same time, you and I are big advocates of take the plain English ritual that we use in York Rite, Scottish Rite, the invitational bodies on the York Rite side of things that we have, and take that and really study it and compare it to the Bible and go look for biblical commentaries. I won't get into all that, but kind of prefacing all that. And so that's what I was able to do for the first time and didn't really know what it even looked like. A lot of the things now that I do and I'm trying to promote, that I'm trying to teach, that I'm trying to unpack for people and kind of invite them along this path that you and I've been walking for years. It's been an amazing, I'm enjoying that as much as anything on my own individual merit and my own individual. It's a greater reward for me than, and that's a maturity point for me. That's mature. That's me growing, and that's that Masonic self-improvement. And I couldn't have probably. There's a few other places, but outside of kind of in a volunteer sense and kind of my spare time, there's not much that I could have done to develop myself into a better person and chosen to do that than how we chose to do it. And it was definitely that. So going back to when you were talking about Joe Arona and some of the other great ritualists that we have been so blessed to have in Tarrant County, in kind of these York Rite circles, this chapter council especially work. The commandery, the Knights Templar commanderies do excellent work, and we always have just everybody on the degree team doing their best and just really doing a great job. And it's so consistent. And I've traveled here and there and there and here, and without putting pins on the map where I'm talking about, we just keep a high standard, and we enjoy it. It's almost like one of these like positive peer pressure things. So with all that, I think that's one of the things that you're quiet. You're doing a great job of opening up and being kind of talkative tonight, but usually you prefer in groups of people and in person to be a little bit more reserved, a little bit more quiet, I'll say. You're good about listening. You're a great listener. But whenever I remember my jaw just dropping, and it still does so many times, especially certain parts that you do and you perform those and you do it in such a way. Now you reminded me, you told me that before, about your charismatic background, Assembly of God's background. Now I see that coming out, and it's definitely not a comedy skit or sketch. It's powerful, and you have stepped into. We have some of those guys that I saw 25 years ago doing those same parts and saying those same words, and I'm just telling you, I don't remember, recall, or recollect that anyone did it better than you.
Well, I appreciate that. The only thing I really know about to say all that is, when I whether it was in college or on my own, learning about Socrates, the lore that goes on that Socrates says, I don't know everything in this world, but I know that those people who claim they know everything definitely don't. And so that's why I try to listen more than I talk, so that I can learn and glean things from other people.
Well, what Solomon has there's something I think in Proverbs also that Solomon is attributed to King Solomon of Israel, something like that. The beginning, yeah. Basically, you don't know if you know that you don't. I'm very much East Texas redneck paraphrasing this, but if when you figure out that you don't know everything that you know, and that there's more to learn, that's the beginning of wisdom. That's the beginning.
Absolutely.
I think maybe in a more modern term, we would say enlightenment or education or transformation. Now, I really want to bring up and talk about what you love to do. You and I are both. I jokingly say, "Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm a ritual addict," and we're both kind of got a. We both love it, and being a part of it. I mean, one of my favorite things to do in our current times is have you give a certain lecture in the past master's degree in the Royal Arch chapter system in Texas, and it's called the past master, and you give a Bible lecture. And I almost, as my background, put up kind of a Bible sitting on the altar with the square and compass there, because you and I've got it down to where we're pretty good sound stage, and then the performer in the middle of the stage, and you do such a wonderful job and have so much fun knowing your cues and listening for that, but just the allocution of that and just the unpacking of the way you do that, the extra part of that speech. I've listened to you probably do it 20 plus times, if not 50. I can't, I've lost count. We've done it so much. And every time it takes my breath away. I get chill bumps. It really brings a different um, vibe into the room. So tell us about, kind of what you enjoy about that, and just kind of unpacking being a part of a ritual team.
Well, the first thing is, there's a lot of people who think that ritual isn't their thing, and they can't learn it or what have you. Whether you learn it or not is not the point. If you're wanting to learn things, and the thing that I've always done is when I get something, I go over it, I go over it, I go over it, I go over it, trying to find the things that are important in the body of text that I'm studying. And that's the only way I'm able to present the way I am, is I have to feel something in it in order for me to do it, because there's times that I've just, done something and it not be as great, if you want to put it that way, and it's because I didn't feel the text. And I've told guys a lot that you have to find something within that text that resonates with you, and then you're able to give it the respect that it deserves. And I guess just my time in trying to learn and understand all this stuff. I've heard stories how rabbis studied the Torah, and in Genesis and Bereshit, they say that for every word in chapter 1, there's could be 70 different interpretations for those words. And that's what I want to do with our rituals, try to turn over in the dirt and try to find the diamonds that are hidden within that text, so that I can give it the proper respect that it deserves. And
Yeah.
I just would tell other people to do the same.
I, I think you might agree with me if I say this. That you and I both. It's tough for me to do the kind of admin mundane things, maybe the obligation or some other things, but give us prayers, or give us the beautiful, eloquent, kind of the very, yeah, poetic. If I hadn't, I've already said that, but these things that are creating pictures. I think you and I love that because of it just is so funny when I sit as I'm sitting and I'm thinking about symbolism all the time, and then why am I so just it's just drawn to it? Why is it like a magnet for me constantly? And I think growing, you had the Catholicism, but I didn't, and I grew up in a Baptist church where in the town that I was in East Texas in Henderson, it's very Protestant, and not Protestant in the mainline sense. I mean, the only thing kind of going to me on that towards we had Catholic Church, we had a Episcopal Church, we had one or two Catholic churches at the most. We had probably just maybe not even a handful of Presbyterian ones, and mainly it was Baptist, some type of Baptist. Um, Met First United Methodist Church is probably kind of the thing that'd be closest. That building would be probably the closest, but it didn't have a lot of icons. It didn't have a lot of statuary. It was still toned down, kind of, I guess, in this kind of Southern Protestant tradition. And I just think that you and I, from those kind of backgrounds, there's so much in there, symbolism, but it's verbal. It's in the songs, it's in the hymns, it's in what Bible verses. Um, we're recording this on a Sunday in the evening, and you and I both attended our worship service at our respective churches, which are both members of the Southern Baptist Convention, and mine started out and went right straight into Daniel and interpreting dreams, and to talk about the wise men and talk about the magi side of that, and how even kind of came along. Actually, I want you to go watch that portion. I was like, "Ooh, Stan would love to hear my senior pastor Jason Paredes talk about this and how he's unpacking it." And it was all this like really Old Testament verse, and how that comes into the New Testament in the second chapter of Matthew, when the three men that had traveled from the Persian Babylonian Empire from the east. Does that sound familiar to a Freemason? And had shown up at King Herod's door and said, "Hey, where's this King of the Jews? We've seen his star in the sky or the east or whatever, and we've come to worship him, to meet him, to give him gifts." Wow, it was like, here the angels are singing again, and for me, I felt like and you and we've talked about how in our mind's eye, in almost this kind of consciousness that we have, we can step, like I was almost like, whenever he was describing all that and he was talking about that, and then coming back to things in the book of Daniel. I think it's seventh chapter of the book of Daniel. Whenever Daniel's seeing the visions of the four beasts, and kind of the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man and all these things, and this is prophetic, leading into who Jesus is to us in the New Testament. And it was just so like I had stepped in past the veil, past that last veil, crossed the threshold, and I was in the throne room of God. The angels were singing, there was praise going on, there was people, there was that prostrating of beings. Like, it was kind of quick. But I think every now and then you get so filled up with knowledge, like, or discussion, or maybe a sermon, or a song or something. Do you kind of get in those kind of
Absolutely.
vision
Absolutely.
times or whatever?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something that's not talked about very much in the church, or in the lodge, or in the chapter, or in the commandery, or in all the other things that we're in. And so and that's going kind of so describe a little bit about that on your perspective.
Well, something that I guess learned through Freemasonry, that from a fundamental standpoint, meditation was weird and scary. But as I've gotten into learning and contemplating ritual, I found that all you're doing is, studying it and looking at it, and turning it over in your mind. And so meditation is taking on a positive connotation, and is no longer something scary that I used to think about. And it is in those times where, whether I'm studying ritual or I'm studying the Bible or what have you, I can look at a text and try to glean from it, whether it be something I'm looking for God to show me, or just something that I can apply in my own life. And there are those times when you know that you're in the presence of the Almighty, and all you can do is sit in awe and appreciate it. It's an experience, but you have to be careful not to define it, because sometimes when we go to define things, as our stricter brethren want to say, you delve into heresy, and so you can just appreciate something without having to nail it down.
Yeah. Yeah, and so with that, going back to kind of not only you deciding, and this is not really a conversation about the York Rite, but you and I do so much of that type of Freemasonry together. That's going to just come out in this episode. And but the York Rite is just kind of the vehicle for the way that we're trying to experience Freemasonry anyway. This kind of interpretive way. This just really plugging into the symbolism and working through it and those type of things. One of the most fun things and one of my greatest honors and privileges was for you to get to a point that you were ready, and certain invitational bodies were ready for you to be a member of, because I wanted us to extend the degree work that we could legally, under obligations, discuss with each other. And the amount of times and the extra things that we've gotten to do together as part of the Allied Masonic degrees is some of the biggest highlights for me. Getting to do those degree work, those are basically it's a collection of side degrees, just kind of help those viewers that maybe those people that are joining us. And so the Allied Masonic degrees, they're roughly less than about 90 something years old. I think 1933, so around 90 years old. They're side degrees. Some of them have their origin in Scotland. Some of them have their origin in England. Some of them have their origin they went from Scotland to America, back to England. And it's some of them are purely American. And I think there's about 12 of them. The last time 12 to 14. They deal with the building of King Solomon's temple. They deal with the time of Constantine, the emperor of the Byzantine, Constantine Roman Empire. We have a grouping of degrees that delve into the story of David before he became King David, and his best friend Jonathan, who happened to be the prince at that time of the Israelite people, who was trying to kill him. And so there's just a very vast thing of that, and it's been really great to work in those things with you. Night Masons are fun. Being a part of that, we have a great council where we have that. I think you've just been to one meeting, right? So
That's correct.
In July when you joined, you got to experience those degrees. More to come on that, and I think that's it, right? We've learned some other stuff, but yeah. Well, good. So what do you think about that? Like the addition of, how would you say, whenever you've got your Blue Lodge, you've got our chapter council commandery, and then your Scottish Rite, and then we have AMD and Night Masons. So how do you feel like that adds to your Freemasonry, and what do you think that adds to the experience?
So just going back to what I said before, it gives further information to be able to look at what we do in the Blue Lodge, to be able to put it in a better light, one of the things in many of the chapter degrees, at the end, the charge tells you to enlighten your less informed brethren. And by getting in those other degrees, you find other ways to explain things from a different perspective. And that's been the best thing about the other organizations that we are involved in. And it's just a matter of looking at them at even the same particular concept, looking at it from a different direction, and it puts it in a whole new light.
I'm giggling because I was literally visualizing how I was about. I had a little graphic in my head of there being like a sphere in the middle and these different rays of lights shooting back into it, but it's still going back to the same center core
Absolutely.
of knowledge, being the master masons. I think you and I are thinking probably of the Grand Tylers of Solomon and the Masters of Tyre, where those two degrees are going back to help you define and explain what's going on in the Master Masons degree, in the Hiramic legend, especially, and the
Sure.
narrative and the drama that involves in all that. And it's really great to have these. We're very privileged to have access to that, and on top of it, get to perform that in certain times and certain places. So we're going back to something that we kind of brushed on and I kind of introduced on purpose. And then I knew I wanted to get a little bit further along, talk about some other stuff, and then come back to this, the Bible. And a lot of times, you and I, when we discuss the volume of sacred law, the Holy Writ, the Bible, God's Word, all these things that we're probably thinking about the same central thing, and without kind of staying in the, I'll help you out here a little bit. I'm going to ask you this in kind of different ways, and we're going to kind of explore some different avenues there. But whenever you're doing that Bible lecture in the past master's degree, we officially use the King James version of the Holy Bible, with an Old and New Testament in it, and that's on the altar. It's open during that ceremony. And what's your view of that book, what it means to you, and kind of as a symbol? Just an easy question there.
Yeah. So for me, just with my background, the Bible is a pillar in my life, and it's where my faith comes from. But as a symbol for a Freemason, that's whatever book is on the Bible, and obviously in Texas it's going to be King James, but that's the way it should be looked at, that this is your book of faith. And even if a brother is not of the same religion, looking at that obligation on that Bible should be looked at as this is a symbol of faith only, and that's something that I should be able to do. Now, we live where we live, so you can't change that, and a brother can take his obligation on his volume of the sacred law. But if he is of a different religion and chooses to allow the King James Bible to be there, I can understand him doing that, because again, that is just a symbol showing that you have a faith in a superior being, supreme being. And I've read through the Bible at least 5 times from front to back, and reading through it is what has
outside of your own kind of either church-led Bible study or personal
absolutely,
Bible study or small group Bible study or
absolutely.
some kind of course or something. Yeah, we that's what we do a lot in the back. Or I'm sure that maybe for the reasons to be a teacher and a discussion leader, in those?
Well, so it started for me just wanting to understand the Bible as I was going from a stricter interpretation of the Bible to a broader interpretation of the Bible, wanting to understand. And one of the things that I got hung up on as I was reading was in Genesis, where God decided he was going to destroy all mankind except for Noah. And it said that God was sorry that he had made man. I paraphrase, that's not exactly the right word, but I was like, okay, if God is God and knows all things, why would he be sorry? And I had to struggle with that, and I had to try to figure that out. And there were other things that some people would call contradictions that were in the Bible, and I had to wrap my brain around those things. And it was only through contemplating on them and reading them and trusting in the Lord that I could come to a position where I had peace with those things, and to understand that my faith is in him. He's in control, and I can have faith in that. I don't know that I have as strict a stance on the Bible that we ask Master Masons to have. I will say that taking the Bible literally means different things to different people. For me, when you take the Bible literally, that means you take the Bible in the context of the author. That doesn't mean I use my 20th century or 21st century eyes and try to interpret that Bible. And so it was from that standpoint that I was able to broaden my understanding of the Bible and have a better appreciation of it.
And we shouldn't, and you and I both would promote the encouraging instruction of, and please don't, and please try to refrain from that also in your study of Masonic ritual.
Absolutely.
Text,
Absolutely.
scripts. Go read the whole thing like a play, like a book, like a novel, and then associate all these things that you were supposed to be studying in high school and English class whenever we studied Shakespeare or something similar to that. And, or if you've ever been in, by the way, I meant to ask this. Have you ever been in a theater class or ever done plays at any point in time, or, kind of been in those creative choir or any of that?
I was in choir in high school. I lettered in choir. Also, my mom had a Baile Folklorico group, which is a Mexican dancing group, and I used to do the Mexican hat dance. I just say that because our audience probably isn't going to be made up of those who understand. But that said, I also sang mariachi music, and so I guess that's where I got not being scared of being in public doing things. But anyways.
But I'm talking about like stage action, like stage acting. So even like for me, it was even, plays and stuff like in elementary school or
that was something I wanted to do, but I didn't have the opportunity to do because my time was taken up with Baile Folklorico.
So back in the day, we didn't have all the electronic distractions now. Were you the kid that grabbed the hairbrush and were doing play-by-play of the NFL football game that you just watched, or doing, acting out your favorite movie or TV show or things like that, and in the living room or somewhere in the backyard or on the front porch or something like that?
Well, growing up, my family didn't verbally say this, but children were viewed and not allowed to say anything. And so
Seen
I
and not
just
heard.
said
Yeah.
that's what I was, yeah,
Seen and not
seen and
heard,
not
yeah.
heard. And so I just learned to entertain myself internally. And then when I had opportunities, whether that was singing or, I did do church plays when they came up, but that was the minimum of it. But I had always wanted to get in theater, and it
Church
just
plays.
didn't. Yes,
Yeah,
church
yeah,
plays.
okay, well, okay, and that's what I was kind of referring to. I mean, yeah, where you have like the Christmas program
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and you're going to be singing a hymn, and then you step out as angel number four and say
Absolutely.
something cute or say some of the scripture and recite that, and then step back in the line, and here we go singing again. Yeah, that's similar for me too. That's what I was in, something like that. Yeah.
I think one of the highlights for me was being able to sing. I got to be the star singer, if you will, in my high school choir
Solo. You're
Christmas.
so you were featured solo.
I did "Oh Holy Night," and that was, I got a lot of compliments on it, and it really bolstered or increased my ego, if you will, but
No,
it
your confidence,
made
it,
me
it,
feel
it
good. Yeah,
emboldened you. Yeah, we all need those things. I mean, we need that just as much as we need H2O and oxygen.
sure.
We definitely do, and there's nothing to be ashamed about that. Um, we've got to have those things. We all have those those five tanks as defined for us by Gary Chapman, right? And the five love languages, and one of those love languages is words of affirmation and that
Absolutely.
encouragement. And it just depends on where you fall in those five, as which one's your top one or two. It's how much you desire that the most, and the priority, and how you want to be shown kindness.
Absolutely. And
So,
then being chaplain in my Sigma Phi Epsilon chapter, for for context, the chaplain is in charge of the ritual, so that was a big thing for me, being able to be in charge of that.
wow. We've never gotten this deep in this discussion because we usually have something. We're at a meeting, and we usually have something we're about to go do, and I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Uh, Similar, not trying to one up you, just trying to add to the conversation here. But I did the same thing. I was the recording secretary while I was in college, one of the leaders of the officers, the leaders of the chapter, and uh, it is a well. Let me just put it this way: it's as fulfilling as learning the junior warden's part in the Order of the Temple, and on the same par level with learning the eminent commander's part, which I think you and I both have have accomplished that, and lots of beautiful language, lots of philosophy, lots of symbolism, and just kind of feeds right into um, the groove, the vibe, and just what I'm always looking to get involved with. So definitely was kind of like this picture, that aha moment, that kind of angel singing moment for sure. Well, that's great, man. I'm glad that I was quiet long enough for once, and not like when we're usually in person, and I'm interrupting you to let you get that deep and tell me all that. Wow, there's a lot of overlap in our background, so that really makes sense why we connect, and the whole Palestine Henderson. We used to play each other in our same district in high school,
There you go.
or at least in the playoffs whenever it changed, maybe. But um, and it's not Palestine, guys that are not from Texas. It's Palestine out
That's
here,
right.
down here in Texas. Um, what else? There's so much. I mean, uh, let's see. We've covered this, that, and the other. Writing. Do you ever do any writing, or want to put things down that you've studied?
That's the one thing probably in my life that is lacking. I don't journal or write anything, and I'm not sure why. I mean, oftentimes now it's just because I'm busy, but that's just something I haven't done. And I guess in some ways I'm insecure there because I don't feel like I'm, important enough. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm not the guy that should be doing all that. There's somebody else more.
And
Uh,
and I disagree. And I've told you that on so many bases, and I would love to come back after you've been published in a magazine or had a whole series of presentation. It doesn't have to be the traditional kind of written magazine publication or lodge of research paper or things like that. There's other ways you can express yourself, as you've seen me do, and I've encouraged you that to do. And there's almost some things that we're working on in the future that I'm almost going to force your hand, is in a loving way, to make you,
okay.
to do to put together a presentation and be there, because the conversations that we have before and after meetings, when the little bit you and I have been able to travel jointly together with, and they're just in that kind of unscripted, in kind of this bubble time where we get to really what we're getting to do now, and really unpack things and really touch base on things and compare and contrast that. And I think for me, in those times, it's a good transition. I've been trying to get to this as an area that I wanted to cover. In those times, I am blown away by how well read you are and how well you retain it, and the vast. You've kind of done some little flares in this conversation that we're recording. You've talked about Socrates. You've talked about the Old and the New Testament. You've talked about all these other things. What would you say that I listen to a lot of country music, so that's what I have in my head roaming around. That's the extra voices and or lyrics or whatever in my head. What is it? And also classic rock and some of those things. What is it that you feel like is, wow, I read a lot of this, and that's been different subject matters, different genres. What's some of those things? Since this is Pen and Compass, and we talk not only to the authors and the content creators, but I would even call you kind of a power literary consumer. You're a
Okay.
power reader for sure.
Well, what I would say is it starts for me listening. When I'm working on whatever, and I'm listening to podcasts at the same time. So that's where it started. And then when I run across a subject, I'll run and go, whether it's Wikipedia or some other article or whatever, and that's how I try to learn more.
Yeah. And you've done. I remember this one time. I had a desire, for a lot of reasons, to get more connected to the Hebrew language and the Hebrew alphabet and those type of things, and you could see that, and you just jumped right in, and you gave me, I think you even texted it to me or something, and you gave me a link to, I think, a YouTube video of, I can't remember the
It
guy's
was
name.
Aleph Tav.
Olive Taub, and who was the guy that taught that?
Some guy from Midland. I can't even
Yeah, he was
remember his name
from
right now.
Midland, Texas, and he was part of like the Midland Christian Academy, Midland Christian School, private Christian school out there, and he taught kind of this Hebrew class and recorded it audio. It's only audio, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And even though I think it's on YouTube, it's just audio, no video, and amazing. And because he is kind of teaching to people from Texas, from probably an Anglo-American and background, a European American background, with our dialects and our native languages, and he's kind of trying to bring not only that, but he did a great job of what you've kind of touched upon, of bringing a Judaism and mindset
Absolutely.
that I'm blessed to have in my church because of one particular member, Rick Weintraub, that he grew up, and in about 1961 is whenever he started converting over. He's been a Christian for 50 years, and he's 85 now. So that kind of gives you some context there. Maybe kind of chose a different religious path before that, but he was kind of actually talking about that today, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. But yeah, I think that's what, whenever you gave me that like, even that was like a nuclear explosion for you and I, because I was like, oh wow, now I have this knowledge. You can have a better conversation with me. You can show me the next thing I need to know, and those kind of things. That's kind of what I was referring to when we first got on. And so, and we'll go ahead and reference his name. It's not as close to Beetlejuice, but it could be. His name is Brandon Kiefer. He's also our kind of the third. He's kind of the third point, and he's kind of the third dot in this triangle of the three of us. Mr. Ghost Pepper, Dave's Hot Chicken himself. That was
That's right.
yeah, and but his knowledge of things, and so I would just say I think he's been around us for like the last 5 years, and he really kind of took what we're doing in our chapter and council kind of to another level, and how we've, especially whenever you were high priest, doing your education series and allowing people after meetings to speak and give them time, and we've got our flat screen TV, and it became a whole new experience, right?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So, what were some of the subjects that we discussed? If you want to talk about those, like what
Um,
type things would we talk about?
we talked about the triple tau. We talked about the veils.
Yeah, that's specific to rural arts, but I'm talking about the bigger picture. I'm talking about where were we using, what sources we're using to help give ourselves kind of the interpretation for those symbols, like the other
Uh,
layers outside of maybe traditional Christian, the view, our backgrounds, like the things that you and I've come to kind of in our current phase of adulthood,
sure.
and Bible study, let's say,
So
or religious
one
study.
what one might call it the Jewish received tradition, that we would glean from, whether that be the Sefer Yetzirah or the Zohar. Um, there's you can look at the emerald tablets. Some of that gets deeper and off track, but there's a lot of things to look at. And some of these things, I guess, are more strict interpreters would be scared of, but I don't have to read it as a gospel or as something I have to live by. But if there's information in it that I can use and apply to my life, there's nothing wrong with looking at it.
Yeah, I think there should be, if truth is there, I think the Spirit of God's there too.
Absolutely.
I think that's, and sometimes what it kind of goes along with sometimes the scientific debate versus kind of the proto science and things like that, where things that we accept now culturally, things that we say, this is how it is, and these are the questions, these are the answers to the questions on the test, from a maybe a physical science or other type of things like that. There's always been these things out there, and we can go back into Da Vinci and Newton and um, Michelangelo and all those. And what we accept now is just like, duh, doesn't everybody know that and plug into that? Back then, it was, oh, the earth is flat and the universe revolve in the solar system, or what we can see with our naked eye. It all revolves around us. We can see that. See, it revolves around us. And then as technology changed, we did that. And I think that's what you and I are kind of alluding to. Maybe there's some things in ancient texts and ancient wisdom and ancient philosophy that help us kind of help our modern world come back to really what it's all about. And in the study of natural law, which is really key whenever or you can't do it without at least basic essential alchemy. I'll kind of say some terms here, but and then the receiving on from a Jewish tradition first, and we both know all the history of that, but however you say it, Kabbalah, Kabbalistic, all those type of things, and a few other practices or bases of knowledge. So that's kind of, I think, the thing that's been fun for me to be kind of looking to you to help bring things along there. And
Well, so one of the things from that
traditions.
is there's a term, and I'll just use it this way: mystery. God, there's a mystery to God, and we have to appreciate that. I think people can get themselves in trouble when they try to define God down to a word and to put him in a box. And I feel like when we do that, we're making idol of God, number one. But I'm not saying that we don't in some ways try to understand what he's revealing, because then he's just some weird force out there that has no personal thing to do with my life. And so there has to be a balance. And also another thing, that in our society terms have been changed, if you will, and people use them in slang or colloquially the wrong way. And if you look at the etymology of a word, it can help you better understand things, such as the word mysticism. I don't like using the word, but if you look at the definition of it, it's about having a personal relationship with your God. It's not about, I don't care how you want to define mysticism. People can do that in any way they want. But if you narrow it down to having a personal relationship with God, then it can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So, perfect lead in. One of the core questions that I have, that I ask whenever I get to be the interviewer, host, however you want to define what my role is here. I have two questions for you.
Okay.
And I have three, actually. So, do you consider yourself an esotericist?
Well, so what I would say is I consider myself, if I have to define it, and I'm a Sunday school teacher. I should have said that before, so I worry about what can be out in the public. But I consider myself a mystic using that definition I just gave.
Well, that was the next question. You bumped on that one. What about the esoteric side? Because that's different. In my definition, those are kind of different things.
So if you look at the word esoteric, it is something known by a few. And that's all there is to esotericism. People want to get all worked up about, something being occult or being evil or what have you. What we do in church can be termed esoteric. When we talk about receiving the body of Jesus and receiving the blood of Jesus, we're using that esoterically, because if someone's not a Christian, they think we're drinking blood of somebody, or they think we're eating that flesh, and we're doing no such thing. That's just
We're
not
referring
getting
back to
crazy.
a certain passage in the Gospels, in some Bible translations. It's the words of Jesus that were attributed to what he said in a certain scene right before he was crucified,
Absolutely.
and in Jerusalem, in what 33 AD or whatever is kind of the common thing. And so
So
yeah, go
so
ahead.
the thing I would say just real quick is I from the Texas standpoint, I should say I don't like the term esoteric because we know when we go to our Blue Lodge brothers and say esoteric, all they're talking about is the Texas ritual, and that is not what I'm talking about when I use that word.
Yeah, and you and I both are there. It's to me, it's that thing that I've discovered that's kind of hanging there behind the initial surface meaning.
Absolutely.
And what's going on kind of whether it's not reality, it's in my perceived concept, consciousness, what's going on with inside of me. And
Absolutely.
and that happens whether I'm at a concert and it's country music or rock music and there's certain lyrics being said, that I'm at a contemporary Christian concert with the same, or in a worship service at my church or wherever. Those things happen, and and then we experience it, and so many times it's almost like, and I don't want to say it in a chaotic way because a pinball machine still has a finite organization to it. But in a way, it's almost like that silver ball is launched up into that pinball machine, and then it's just bouncing all around. It's still the same ball, and it's bouncing all around, and all these great things. And that's almost what's happening inside of my soul, inside of my spirit. So many times, and it doesn't have to be hitting the same bumper and lighting up the same lights all the time. I guess is that a pretty decent kind of
Absolutely.
metaphor analogy or whatever?
Absolutely.
You know, the pinball wizard theory of esoterics. But I guess I just come up with a new with this. I guess I listen to a lot of a lot of songs, and the Who Pinball Wizard kind of caught my attention in my business travels earlier this week. But with that, yeah, it's something that I'm glad you went and defined that. Esoterics means it's just something that is hidden. It's you have to discover it upon your own.
Absolutely.
And then so you would consider yourself an esotericist. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
And have mystical leanings also. And that's not and the reason I'm kind of talking about that is because some people are like, when I ask them that question in this podcast, they're like all over it. Yes, I do that. Um, so
So let me just say,
yeah,
when I was defining mysticism being a personal relationship with God, from that standpoint, I can see myself being esoteric because that's something that when God reveals it to me, that's between me and him.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I kind of described something that just happened to me today. Kind of being in there, hearing um, a certain couple different passages in the Bible, in the Old and the New Testament, and then the Old Testament, and the way it was all wrapped together. I kind of had that feeling of almost stepping into another place to sit within my kind of person, right? In a group in an auditorium with 1,000 people. And so I think to me that's a kind of a mystical experience where you're kind of
Absolutely.
moving to almost just like, don't want to make it too weird or anything, but where you're getting a chance to see beyond what we can see kind of in our physical world, and that
I
unseen
re-
world that's out there that's evidence to those of us that kind of believe in that.
I remember being young at my and it didn't go by the term Assembly of God. That's just what I'm using. But I remember being there and experiencing feeling drunk on the Holy Spirit. I obviously wasn't drinking, but I could definitely feel like the presence of the Holy Spirit was on me, and it was making me feel like I needed to sit down. If I stood up, I was going to fall over. And having, I guess, those experiences in my youth helped me to get to this point as well.
And that's a big focus of that denomination and that tradition within Protestant Christianity.
Absolutely.
Definitely is. And where you and I are at now, we believe in those things. They're not focused on as much and as heavily. And and there, you may know this or not, but actually within the Baptist Faith and Message 2000 edition, I think, or I don't think they've had a major overhaul of that doctrine yet, from what I know. But anyway, it's like there are certain conditions that they say, yes, people can have visions, they can speak in tongues, they can have this anointing of the Holy Spirit to that powerful physical level if there's people there to interpret the tongues. If there's certain criteria, if they come back to a conscious state, kind of that hypnotic state, that they give certain things that they were revealed and things like that. So this is probably going to be interesting for some people to listen to, but that's it's really not like it's some crazy thing from the 60s. It'd be like from the 1760s, the Quakers and the Shakers. I mean, that's how they got their name.
Absolutely.
It's been around for probably 500 years, practice like that, and maybe even before, in a true kind of within kind of the realm of Orthodox Christianity in all that. So what do you like about the opportunity, not only with the systems, but with our other members that we get, and especially being in, how many millions of people live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? 6-7 million or something, and
Right.
the tens of thousands of Freemasons that we're kind of blessed with and grouped with, and the hundreds and hundreds that we know, you and I. So how does that kind of affect you as a person, do you think? What do you ever step back and feel like that's a blessing, and to have all this diverse people that are still your Masonic brother, your Masonic companion, and that you can kind of
Absolutely.
meet with them? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is something, I guess being in a small town, Palestine, everybody knew everybody. And so being in the Dallas area, that's definitely a blessing to be able to be around other people. And me being the person I am, I'm happy to introduce myself, but I'm happy to let people talk about themselves so that I can learn new things.
Well, I'm talking about, you're in the Dallas Scottish Rite, very diverse set of men over there from backgrounds. I would think that there's so many different Christian backgrounds there, Muslim backgrounds, Jewish backgrounds, Hindu backgrounds, and maybe some others that maybe you could be, oh yeah, have you ever met someone? Maybe you don't want to name that person, but you can say, hey, especially in the Scottish Rite, because that's the biggest grouping. That's the kind of the whole Dallas area and other multiple counties outside of that kind of feeding into one place. And so when you have a reunion, you have a couple hundred people coming through that event. You're going to have this diversity kind of magnified.
So I think one of the things that hit me going through the Scottish Rite was getting a deeper appreciation of the Bible in a different way. And one of the verses that really came into a whole new light for me was Genesis 1, 26 and 27. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the, oh, hold on, that's not the right one. Sorry, 27 is what I was getting at. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Every person in this world is an image bearer, or in the Catholic tradition, they would say the Imago Dei, and as such should be treated with respect. Now, that doesn't mean that when they act like idiots, that we have to take it, but
Correct.
at a deep level, we are all alike, male or female, we are all alike. And when we can come to that understanding, then we can work towards something better. And it's when we're distracted by our divisions, distracted by the us versus them, that we lose knowledge, that we become egocentric, and we lose the opportunity to share with each other the light that we all have within us.
Yeah, I've learned that in a big way in the last 5 years for sure. Moving out of my 40s into my 50s, moving away from my overcompensation in my teens and my 20s and my 30s, trying to overcome some things. Yeah, definitely. It's amazing what you can hear if you quiet yourself first.
Absolutely.
Not even your mouth, just your whole quiet yourself. So, but do you get to interact with a lot of people from different religious backgrounds as far as
Absolutely. We know some of the same people, and we have our brother from Sherman who has taught me a lot about his faith. And I have other brothers who are Jewish who have taught me about their faith, and
so
I've tried to
so
learn
you're
from
you're
them.
you're speaking about a Islamic Sufi follower, Muslim young man that just turned
Absolutely.
28 years of age at the time of this recording within the last 24 48 hours he has.
That's
And
right.
and so we do this every now and then when we'll put in these episodes little inside things. um he may or may not have come to my house today and jumped in my car, and I took him to the airport so he could have a Christmas break. We're kind of in mid-December when we're recording
Okay.
this, 2024. He got a chance to go do some things and see some people he cares about, and that was a great thing. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, you are getting to the point where some things are kind of opening up for you, and I can't wait for me to say, hey, I'm about to run off on this Masonic road trip. You want can you get the come out and play on the playground pass from your wife and from your professional? Can we carve out some time to go do those things? So what do you think about that ability of just kind of being connected to, kind of what it means, and helps. For me, it's an oasis within the world. I mean, I've gotten so many things just would, well, I won't even go into from my dad's career, my dad's job, um, that turned, if you look at that, well, I wouldn't have gotten my jobs out of college if my dad hadn't had a certain position in a certain industry that his father-in-law, my papaw, helped set up after a lodge meeting, after they did like an EA degree or something in Henderson, Texas. That's not even really a good way to place that. And there's so many other things that since I've been Freemason for 25 years, you kind of just mention something, and all of a sudden somebody's like, "No, I'll help you." You don't even ask them. You're just like, "Hey, I'm going to the
Right.
Bahamas," and they're like, "Well, do you need a ride?" I know people down there. I'll either be there myself, or I'll, even though I live in Florida, I'll be there to get you and your wife from the airport to your resort and back at no
Well,
cost.
and that's definitely
And they were joyful to do it.
right. And that's definitely one of the beautiful things about our fraternity is, you know, when I think about church, if I go to another town, it's going to take me a while to establish a connection with people. But I can go to a lodge and have an immediate connection with a brother instantly. And so that's one of the most amazing things about all this. I mean, you have people willing to take the shirt off their back for you, and you're not even asking for it. And I mean, you've already mentioned that, but yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's when, without kind of going into names and naming it, you and I have someone that's very special to us that lives about our South Drive that had a horrendous car accident. We almost lost him, and
Yes.
he's still recovering. We saw him just within a day we just saw him yesterday, and his body is still recovering. Thank the Lord in heaven above. Praise everything holy and truthful. He has still got his mind and his smile, and he's still fun to be around. Um, and I literally knew he needed some things. He's about the same size man as me, and I went and found some t-shirts that it was a blessing for me to, to get some space in my closet that, so I could jam it up with new stuff. Um,
Right.
but that's kind of being funny, but it was so much, I wasn't doing anything other than going, this guy has given me so much. He has shaped who I am. It's been, I can't tell you the time and date and the place, but there's a conversation that I know he changed the way I just, a lot of things that I think about. It's made me a better outside salesperson. It's made me a better father. It's made me a better friend, mentor, leader by just learning how to ask certain questions and kind of work and look at where people come from and where they're coming from to help me survive in this world and kind of in a better way. And I think that's something that we don't really talk about in Freemasonry. It's hard to define. It's kind of hard to, well, what is Freemasonry all about? And it's like, man, that's such a hard question. What do you need it to be about? What do you, and I'm not making this a join Freemasonry episode, but these things come out whenever we get to a point where we're talking about it. It's like, you can literally feel the fire in your person of, wow, I'm still flabbergasted that the additional, under the blessings of my wife, her highness of the ponytail, that she allowed me to while we were on vacation, whenever I was offered these opportunities to attend a lodge meeting, to get to tour that same building more at length during the daytime, and to just get to meet some guys that I'd never met from the Bahamas. And it's amazing how much kind of old school in countries outside of the US, how much the structure of the country, whether it be on the for-profit business side or the governmental side, still has a lot of very influential Freemasons in leadership. And then
Absolutely.
also down the org chart also.
Well, something else I'll touch on, at one time in my Sunday school class, we were going over a study by Chuck Colson, and he was talking about orthodoxy, and the word orthodoxy is right thinking, um, and he had said that we need to work on praxis, which is the action. And that's something that hit me, that oftentimes in churches, people put a lot of effort in the orthodoxy, but they don't put a whole lot or enough emphasis on the praxis. And I'm not talking about following dogmatic rules. I'm talking about the loving of Christ to other people. And that's something Freemasonry focuses on, is the praxis of being brothers.
Yeah. The actions, the behavior, the what can I do? And I'm in, I also have been in a job seeker group, and they say help one person every day, and kind of like Boy Scouts of America, do a good turn. I mean, and all those things, that, so to help you out with that, my contemporary Christian music from the late 90s, early 2000s would be Rich Mullins. It's about as useless. Faith without works is about as useless as a screen door on a submarine. Now,
There you go.
if that ain't some Southern philosophy, religious philosophy right there.
Well, something else that I've come to open my eyes about is when I do quote unquote works, it is about worshiping God. It is not about me checking a box so that I can make it into heaven. Because I have a personal relationship with my God, with Christ, I don't have to worry about salvation. So I can spend time blessing others as I can because he has blessed me.
Yeah, and it's fun to get the reinforcement of that as we move through the degree path, the ritual path that you and I progressed through, and how many times we're reminded of those things in a non kind of denominational sectarian way.
Absolutely.
And it's just kind of that this is not the right truth or not whatever. I still get to choose how I want to worship and express myself kind of in a religious fashion, but it's still that same central core truth that we talk about. We're not trying to supersede anything. We're just trying to reinforce. And man as men, we need to hear that be told to us again and again and again, especially if we have the privilege of coming in to our groups in our 20s when we need those guidance, especially like maybe you and I. You had your grandfather, but and your dad, but my family was 2.5 hour, 3 hours away, except for, as you know, my uncle and my cousin.
Right.
But you're very good. You've been very good friends to them, and they think the world of you for sure. Um, but with that, I mean, it's just kind of it is, and so for me, I think my works in whether it be standing in line, waiting to check into a hotel, and just trying to be patient and give grace and just, you know what, you're the person at the front desk. It took a little bit longer. Maybe I just need to calm down a little bit, not be so impatient, not be rude, just because I can be or anything, and just because I have the upper hand at that moment. Same way with restaurants. I mean, for me, that's kind of a ministry. I mean, I know it maybe sounds a
Absolutely.
little, yeah, but you know how much I
Absolutely.
travel, and for me, that's where I can't go out and do things in our county, in our city, and in our area. So as I travel, I try to make that person's day better, whether it be at the airport, with their security at the airport, or helping me get on an American Airlines flight, or whatever, and just try to be that, and then try to be patient whenever people are losing it. And I'm kind of in a customer service facet or something, and just try to be graceful and loving, and just kind of look at how can I help this person through this kind of not fun time in their life. And I think Freemasonry, that's where I've enjoyed is kind of getting to know people on an individual level, and them giving me just this blessing of opening up and telling me where they're hurting, where they have questions. Sometimes it starts out as, hey, can you help me learn more about the Mark Master's degree that I just took, or that I took years ago, and now I'm ready to kind of explore those things. Or that, and then a lot of times that turns into, this is my family situation, this is my job situation, this is things that I'm struggling with personally, and we get a chance to not be the full force behind it, but be a part of kind of maybe a healing process.
Well, something else that I like, the fact that our mascot, for lack of a better word, is a builder, someone who builds, and we're to build up other people. That's what this is all about.
Right, right. And I try to look for those within the greater sphere of our Freemasonic membership. And I think you've heard me start using this. Try to find our tribe. Those that we're all kind of innately, intrinsically kind of either holding, we're moving forward under the same banner. We're kind of all in the same big tent. And those are purposeful. Some of those have Masonic connotations to parts of the Scottish Rite, to parts of the Royal Arch system, and some of those things. Also in Knights Templarism, but it really is that, and it's kind of, we're all kind of out there, and it's temporary. It's very much a tabernacle situation, an encampment situation, and that we're kind of not set up in the palace. We're not set up at the 5-star resort, kind of metaphorically, and not everything. We don't have servants. Well, you could have servants, I guess. You could be glamming right out in the wilderness, but you could have staff or whatever. But I see it a little bit more in a hermetic type sense, and kind of that. Help me out with the word. I'm not thinking. What did the like the monks and the guys do, kind of in the desert with in the
Ascetic.
Early Christian times?
Ascetic tradition.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Thank you. I know you could. See, this is why we talk to each other, because at some point I'm going to run out of. Wait a minute, I can't find that one without going. Can't even figure out what to put it in the search on the internet. So I think I've covered most things that I wanted to in this episode. Not putting you, we would like to talk to you again at some point in time, I'm sure. If whenever you started wowing us with all your essays you're writing about symbolism, and or maybe if I'd start actually putting some things down on paper or getting some things typeset a little bit, you could be giving critiques of my work and telling me how I did it
Okay.
wrong. So, but all that said, I think it's been really fun for me, and I want to make sure I ask this one question before we kind of end this segment. And I try to ask this to everybody. There's no right answer, but if you answer one way or the other, kind of give your reasonings why. Okay.
Okay.
And this is kind of maybe a deep subject. So would you say Beatles or Stones?
Well, I just have to say, from the way I grew up, it's Beatles.
Okay.
But that's just because of the way I grew up. My dad listened to 50s music, and so the Beatles were on the backside of that, beginning in the 60s, and I know they went way through the 60s, but just my dad's background was either country music or 50s music, and so Beatles would be the answer.
Yeah, and for me, it's what you're kind of thinking about when you think that. If you're thinking about influence and everything, I'm like, yeah. But if you say rock band wise and what kind of started defining what kind of the next generation of rock bands were, and then also kind of their, it's not all the Beatles' fault, but in a way, but kind of them just still being around today and still being together, but even missing a few members, kind of like
Right.
my favorites, the Grateful Dead, also kind of just keeping rocking along and keep giving the people what they want.
There you go.
So, any last thoughts? I mean, anything that you've thought about or you want to discuss more? I've kind of been
I
sort of
know. I
leading
mean,
that.
the one thing that I was trying to get across is with Freemasonry, I have an opportunity to get on the level with my brothers in a way that I wouldn't normally. And so something that would make somebody at my church feel uncomfortable, but I can sit down with my brother who's Muslim and I can try to understand where he's coming from and try to see things through his lenses, if you will, not to convert, but so that I can have something that we can both connect on. And when I have Muslim brothers, I have no problem saying salam or assalamu alaikum or what have you. That doesn't mean I believe in their faith, but that's something important to them. And I want to reach out to them in a way that's special or personal to them. And the same with my Jewish brothers, or, I don't have too many brothers outside of those faiths, but I'm happy to meet someone on their level so that I can understand where they're coming from, number one. And if there's a way that we can walk together and build a relationship starting from that, I'm happy to do it. And that's one of the greatest opportunities that Freemason has given me. And I just love that I'm able to come together with men of all walks of life. I come from a lower to middle class family, and I didn't have opportunities that others may have grown up with. And now I have the opportunities to see where people are coming from and use that to judge preconceived notions that I created in my head to say, maybe I didn't look at that from the right perspective. Maybe I need to look at it from this different perspective to better understand and broaden my horizons.
Couldn't have said it better than that. Very much agree with a lot of that. And wow, Stanley Omar Amos. I always have to slow down and say Amos Payne.
What seest thou? Oh,
Uh,
different degree. Sorry.
yeah, a plumb line, by the way. And so you have definitely you just been there for me, and I'm going to give a little bit. I don't know how much I said this at the beginning of this recording, but this podcast wouldn't exist in this format without you looking at me in 2020 and us. I think we were on the. I called you one day, and I said, "Hey, you and I had just been on an online meeting that was the Scottish Rite out of Austin. We had just gone and shut
Absolutely.
down. It's like first or second Saturday, and we couldn't go anywhere. And I was literally sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in now, talking on I was watching this Zoom meeting with all these slide presentations and all these images and all this talk about a lot of the subject matter that we've talked about today, a lot of the philosophies and let's just say um, bodies of knowledge and practices that kind of go along with the themes and the teachings of Freemasonry. And it was like 5.5 hours just nonstop. And um, without going, and I just remember being like, wow, this is this is what I've been looking for. It blew me away. And I called you and I said, we got to figure out how to do Zoom. And I've got all these short talks that I've written that I've kind of started putting into PowerPoints that I've been doing in person, but I would love to shift over and do that. And and I don't want this to come off as braggadocious or anything, but the last 4 years of mine and your life, I mean, you've been there the first time I gave a certain presentation that I hope turns into a multi-volume book that I write and get published. You were there to help run and check people in. We had our grand high priest allowed us to do these online meetings because of COVID restrictions. And we had about 3 or 4 ground rules that David Baskin, our grand high priest at the time, Santa David himself, wanted us to follow. And we did that, of checking people in, making sure that we knew every person on there was who they are and what they said they were, and all those type of things. And you did that so just lovingly and excited, and just with a smile on your face and that wonderful giggle that just makes my day every time I hear it. You can go ahead and giggle if you need to, chuckle, whatever you do. And and there's so many times I act silly around you just to get that response out of you, because it just lights up my life. But you've been there for me always, and I can't tell you how a lot of times you prefer, like you've talked about, kind of being beside me, but a little bit kind of over here, not being in the spot, literally in the spotlight. and you've given me so much confidence, and just taking care of a lot of things. You've helped me to round out my blind spots, my weaknesses that I just naturally have, and everybody has those. And we've been a great balance of things like that. And then as we've gotten to do that and help kind of build up other things in other people, it's just been so much fun. And the last 4, 5, 6 years, once we finally kind of, okay, we both just want to do it. Let's just. I remember like, yeah, you want to? Like, yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. I'll do whatever. Like, yeah, this will be great. I'll learn this and everything. And some, and I can't tell you. I probably couldn't even count. I don't have on these shoes right now because I'm on flip flops, but probably every time that I've ever invited you to come, whenever I've been doing an online presentation, you've been there, and you don't know how great that feels. Even though, I mean, that would be like, and you've come to my in-person presentations that I've done. You've invited me to give those on your behalf when you were in leadership, and I just can't tell you how much that means to me and how much I owe you. And I don't owe you, but I don't know how else to say. I don't know how else to put that. And I really want to make that to where, maybe you and I doing this episode and talking about these things kind of so openly and lovingly and kind of fraternally, maybe somebody else in some other state or some other part of the world looks at this and goes, we can do this too. Let's make it happen. And we get, somebody inspired to do that. I mean, that's maybe a little bit ostentatious, but audacious, or whatever the word should be. But I hope we do, because we've dropped some names tonight of people that mean the world to us. Think there's some of them that are with us and some of them that are not. But the effect that they had on us still lives on, and that's, I think that's the secret of Freemasonry.
Absolutely.
So, well, I'll try to make you listen to the Rolling Stones more so you can be a little bit bigger fan.
All right.
And
well, I'll just say again, I appreciate all the encouragement you've given me, because there's a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't have even gotten involved in, because I don't like being the one in the immediate spotlight. But anyway, so thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, and you know, the more you remind me of that and tell me that, the more I'm gonna be like, oh no, you don't. For your own good and my amusement. So, well, I think we're gonna end it right there. This has been Pen and Compass podcast. This has been with the brother, the companion, Soap from the Dallas Fort Worth area, and it's been my pleasure to have him on, and look forward to all the great things we're going to do offline in the future, and then getting you back on here either as another time in the guest role or on the other side of the camera, so to speak, and either helping. I think you're gonna help us in kind of the production company side of it, in doing some of the studio engineering whenever we have new episodes, and certain our production engineer director Rodney, like tonight, wasn't available, Rodney McGilvery, and helping us run the board. And pop on real quick, Aaron Powell's been doing that behind the scenes for us. Are you get it on camera? Unmute yourself. We appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for keeping it rolling and kind of helping us get all set up tonight and all that. So, would you like to add anything?
I don't know that there's anything that I can add to this. Jeff, great questions. Stan, I was honored to be a fly on the wall for this conversation. But you don't know what this meant to me, especially after this past weekend at Grand Chapter and Council. I'm just honored to be here. Thanks, Jeff.
Cool, man. All right. With that, we're going to sign off, and we'll catch you the next time.
Thank you, Jeff.